Ever since it was announced that James Gunn was taking over DC Studios all the way back in 2022, wait, has it really been that long already? God, that's unfair. But fans have been wondering what will happen with The Batman. Lauded as the greatest Batman movie of all time by the only critic that matters, me, the film released earlier that year and was on everyone's mind. Would it be folded into the new universe or continue to stand alone, untouched by any creative vision other than Matt Reeves? James Gunn quickly set the record straight and made it clear that it would remain an Elseworlds story as the DCU introduced their own Batman in The Brave and the Bold. But rest assured, that didn't stop the DC fandom from doing what they do best and arguing over what creative should be in charge of the universe. In the years since that decision was made, there's been very little progress on either Batman film, and that's got a lot of people wondering if DC made the right call separating these two universes. Should they pivot and include the Batman after all, or continue to do things as planned? It's a very complicated answer because I think both points have some validity behind them. So, I figured I would break it all down in the most exciting way I could think of, a pros and cons list, because I'm sure that would make for a thrilling video. Let's start with the positives of including the Batman in the DCU because I think there are a lot of interesting benefits from making this merger official. The first of which is that you're kicking things off with a bang as you get to start the DCU with a Batman who's already beloved by fans. One of the hardest things about adapting a character is making people want to see more of them, and Matt Reeves was able to do just that, both reinventing the Caped Crusader in the modern day while also giving us the most accurate version of the character we may ever see in live action. Also, we don't have to take the risk of seeing an Andy Muschietti-directed Batman movie, which is a huge plus in my eyes. It's no secret that I'm not exactly the biggest fan of The Flash, or how pretty much every version of Batman was handled in that film. Batman. So it could be a huge dodged bullet if we skip over more of that altogether. That being said, he's not exactly signed on to direct the movie right now, as it all depends on if he wants to based on the script, so fingers crossed he doesn't want to and we can get someone else to direct a Batman movie. Stick with the director who actually understands this character and has an inspired take on him, not just reheated nostalgia, and people are dying to see that Batman's next adventure. I can't go 5 minutes without seeing people beg for an update on part 2. I can't even look both ways to cross the street without hearing someone ask for it. There is an insatiable appetite for more of this character, and that is exactly the kind of thing you want to have. So why not use that excitement to your advantage and get those fans interested in this new shared universe? Not only being able to see Batman again, but imagine the prospect of Pattinson's version being able to interact with other superheroes. Something that just a few years ago was an impossibility could be a reality in one simple move. I know that part of the appeal of the first movie was having Batman isolated and alone, and don't get me wrong, I loved that. It is incredibly satisfying to watch that man isolate himself in self-destruction. But if I could be frank with you for a second,
let me tell you something else, man.
I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't interested to see how Rob Bat would connect with other heroes. It would be really cool to see him grow into a team dynamic with the Justice League and feels like a natural step in his arc to become a more hopeful hero. And I know we've all been thinking about it, but God, they would make for one hell of a world's finest. Just imagine how perfect these two would look side by side. I'm sorry, but I'm not immune to propaganda. Every single time I see edits of these two together, I want to see them interacting more and more. It even makes sense considering the fact that they're both early into their superheroing careers. These two would reasonably become friends and bond over their approaches to making their cities a better place. I understand why Gunn did it so we don't have to start at the beginning, but because of the fact that we're entering a DCU that is already established, Batman has gone through a lot, and it puts a big gap between those two characters that makes it harder for them to relate. I'm sure there's probably an interesting story you could tell with that, but it just makes things a lot more convenient if they have a similar age range like they traditionally do in the comics. And not only are they around the same age, but even their costume designs look similar. The detailed suits with segmented lines make them feel alike, but it's the collars that really ties the whole look together for me. Superman, and especially Batman, rarely ever have them, and I almost always prefer them without that aspect of the design, but somehow, both of these suits make it work. Visually, they look like they could conceivably be part of the same universe. It's honestly scary seeing how well the costume design lines up. Honestly, on an aesthetic level, Gunn's bright Metropolis and Reeves' gritty Gotham is exactly the kind of thing I want to see out of the DCU. Each city has its own unique stylization that feels ripped straight out of the comics. They aren't trying to base things in reality and give us boring gray cities that are just Chicago, because let's be real, nobody wants to live in Chicago. These are larger than life locations that reflect the hero that protects protects them. Superman has this golden retro-futuristic metropolis that exudes an undeniable sense of hopefulness for the future. It feels like a perfect utopia and the city of tomorrow. And then you have Gotham, which is the exact opposite of that. A bleak, dirty, and nightmarish hellscape where it's always raining and only lit by neon signs illuminating the smog above it all. There's a constant sense of dread and uneasiness in Gotham, as if at any moment your entire life could fall apart when a man really into riddles bombs everything. Okay, you know what? I take back what I said about Chicago because I would happily live there any other day over this version of Gotham. Although, you know, I guess the rent would be pretty low. They probably pay you to stay there. I want to see more of that over-the-top stylization that gives each location its own depth and rich history. It's the contrast between each city that makes this universe feel alive. You can easily slide Reeves' Gotham in here and it wouldn't feel out of place at all. Actually, no, I take that back. It would feel out of place, which is exactly what makes it feel in place, if that makes any sense. I didn't really think that one through, but it's the differences that makes this so compelling to me. Being able to have a universe where you can have one city so gritty and grounded, and another having kaijus invade every week just feels like the comics brought to life in the most accurate way possible. Another similarity between the two universes is how they both touch on themes of hope. James Gunn's Superman might be the most hopeful film I've ever seen in my entire life, as it had me hope-maxing to the extreme. Having Superman enter a world that already has superheroes existing is such a unique take on the character, as he's able to inspire them all to be better. That movie asks the very challenging question of how to be good in a world where being good is a complicated concept. That theme right there feels like a very direct next step for Bruce's character arc that was set up at the end of The Batman. Once he came to the brutal realization that you can't save the world through vengeance, his eyes were open to being a positive symbol for Gotham. No longer just striking fear into the hearts of every criminal out there, but inspiring the citizens with hope for a better tomorrow. A second movie where he actually has to figure out what that means, akin to Superman's character arc here, is a great way to connect these characters and show that the DCU is all about hope, a common and desperate sense of a need for optimism that drives them both to be the best heroes they can. They bleed into each other in a way that almost feels like it was always meant to be a natural step in the same direction for both of DC's flagship heroes. And also, in maybe the craziest coincidence of them all, both movies have a very similar big reveal in them. The earth-shattering twist in Superman is that his Kryptonian parents sent him there to conquer, meaning that Superman's entire worldview and everything he believed about why he was sent to this planet in the first place was wrong. His inspiration for being a good person was built on a foundation of lies. And then in The Batman, Bruce is faced with this shocking revelation that his parents weren't who he thought they were, as they were more involved in the corrupt side of Gotham than he expected. They weren't these squeaky clean good billionaires like he thought, as his dad inadvertently had a man killed, and that moment serves as this reveal to Bruce that the people he looked up to and inspired his mission to clean up all of crime in Gotham was built on a lie. That this random act of crime that had his parents killed actually could have been their own doing. The fact that both of these characters learn devastating truths about their parents is just another example in a long line of connections that would bring them closer together and give them something to bond over. They have such similar journeys that parallel each other that they've taken in different ways that I think would be really interesting to place them in the same universe and see how they would operate like that. And it's not exclusively an in-universe thing either, as Matt Reeves already has a lot of input on Batman's storytelling in the DCU and beyond. He's practically the man pulling the strings on every Batman-related project right now. Outside of the funnily named Batman Epic Crime Saga, Reeves has been the executive producer of Caped Crusader and also the upcoming Clayface movie. He's even gone as far as to help cast the new live-action Clayface, which is crazy to think about for a universe that he's not even involved in. And you know why that is? The Clayface movie originally started out in the Reevesverse. Yeah, that's right. The ultra-fantastical Mudman movie was so close to being part of Matt Reeves' Batman Epic Crime Saga. And then for whatever reason, it transitioned over into the DCU. And this isn't even the first time that's happened. That Arkham/GCPD show that got canceled a few months ago? Yeah, that also started out in the Batman universe and made its way over into the DCU. There is clearly a history of Matt Reeves' Batman projects making their way into the DCU, so why not just do that with the Batman already? He's already dipped his toes into the DCU, why not just pull the trigger and let him fully immerse himself in that sandbox? There's no point in having him go in and out between universes when you could just have one creative making a cohesive Batman universe. And some people might have a problem with how different these two universes are tonally and fantastically, but I think that's what makes it so exciting to me. The whole appeal of Batman and Superman's dynamic is that they come from different worlds that feel distinct. I love that these characters have such unique vibes to them, and feel like they're almost in different genres. Superman and Batman should never feel like they come from the same exact world. In spite of all their similarities, they still have very different life experiences, and I want their stories to reflect that. Also, think about how funny it would be if the Penguin and his Oedipus complex existed in the same world as Lex Luthor and his army of rage-baiting monkeys. There are so many connections these two universes already have, but it's the differences that really drive this home for me. It's what makes them both stand out and is the easiest way to make this universe as diverse as possible. Even if we keep things street level for Batman, it adds this hierarchy of power that brings with it a world of storytelling potential. And I'm sorry I said hierarchy of power just then, I know that could be a very concerning phrase for us DC fans. But here's the thing, making the Batman an official part of this new universe doesn't come without its issues. For as fun of an idea as it would be to see Pattinson as a larger part of the DCU, there's a lot holding it back from becoming a reality. The most important reason as to why this merger just can't work is that Matt Reeves doesn't want it to. It's as simple as that. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Or in this case, you can set up a crossover that makes perfect thematic sense, but if the storyteller isn't invested in it, it won't go anywhere. We could talk all day about why they should cross these characters over for as long as possible, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we want. It doesn't even matter what James Gunn wants, really. Matt Reeves is the mastermind behind the Batman epic crime saga, and for as silly as that name may be, he's clearly intended for this to be a crime saga centered around Batman and Batman alone. And also hopefully Robin, but that's a story for another time. Trying to factor other characters into this doesn't align with what he intended that universe to be, and that's okay. There just isn't room for Batman to take a break from that to go fight the Legion of Doom with the Justice League. And I've come to peace with that. Reeves had such an exciting new take on the Batman mythos with that first movie, and I don't think it's worth sacrificing more of that just so we can see some characters talk to each other. He should be allowed to see his vision through to the end without any complications from outside forces or having to worry about what is and isn't canon. It's very clear that Matt Reeves intends for his Batman universe to be as grounded as possible, so just let the man cook and do what he wants to do. It's as simple as that. And I mean this in the absolute nicest possible way, because he's one of my favorite actors, but Robert Pattinson is a freak. That man hardly ever stars in big budget movies, as he prefers to work with art house directors with inspired visions who let him play the most up people imaginable. I'm still shocked and also very grateful that he signed on to do the Batman in the first place, because he is perfect in that role, but I doubt that he wants to do it forever. The DCU is just now starting out, and that is a lifelong commitment to become the Batman for at least the next decade of his life. At least with Reeves, he can just pop in every few years whenever there's a new script and gets to enjoy the benefits of it all with none of the drawbacks of an endless shared universe. And with how long it took Reeves to write this next movie, he had a lot of free time on his hands that has allowed him to star in movies like Mickey 17 and The Boy and the Heron, where he gets to do more silly voices than he's ever dreamed of. And this way, it gives the opportunity of a lifetime to another actor who wants that kind of long-term commitment. I see this as a holy shit two cakes kind of scenario. It's not like we have to settle for one Batman universe when we could have two incredibly distinct takes on the Dark Knight operating at the same time. What's so cool about Batman as a character is that there is 85 years of history to dig through. Everything from a grounded year one story, to a battle with a giant mudman, to Rainbow Batman. That's right, Rainbow Batman. I'm not letting DC forget about that so easily. When are we gonna see that adapted? With two different and distinct Batman active at once, it would allow us to fully explore the rich depth Batman has to offer in two different ways. Reeves can continue to develop his crime saga and showcase the grounded nature of the character, while the DCU gives us the fully fantastical version of Batman that we haven't seen on the big screen yet. And for as much as I love Matt Reeves' universe, I would be lying if I said that I didn't want to see Batman fight supernatural threats, and finally get a fully established Bat family in live action. For the last 20 years, we have exclusively seen Batman as a realistic hero, and while Reeves' take is the most I've ever enjoyed a live action Batman, being able to see a different take highlight this new side of the character would scratch an itch I've had for a while now. It's the best of both worlds and something I think we'd all benefit from if done correctly. Please, just don't let me down, Andy Muschietti. Okay, not again. Do the job correctly. Or, you know, ideally you don't do the job at all and hand it over to someone who actually understands Batman as a character. I feel like I'm being pretty hard on the guy, but after he blamed the financial failure of The Flash on women, I don't really want that kind of guy handling Batman. Part of what made Matt Reeves' Batman so special is that he was able to take a chance with the character and do something bold. And because of that, audiences immediately fell in love with it. I would love if this new Batman did the same thing and gave us something we haven't seen before. Let us see the Bat family at the height of their power to contrast Reeves' depressingly isolated version of the Bat. Do unique things that have never been done before, not just in live action, but with Batman as a whole. Don't stick to just one vision and let them go wild with creativity. So, now that we have run through a riveting pros and cons list, it's time to answer the big question on all of our minds. Should the Batman be part of the DCU? No. It's very much so the expected answer and probably makes this entire video irrelevant because we're maintaining the status quo, but I don't think that Pattinson should be the singular Batman going forward because that's not what Matt Reeves wants. There are undeniable benefits to including him in the DCU, but I don't think it's the most effective way to utilize the character. It's mostly just for my own selfish needs to see those two specific versions of DC's world's finest interact, but if Matt Reeves thinks they're better off doing their own thing, then by all means, he knows best. The Batman epic crime saga can continue to create its own legacy as the DCU introduces their own take on the Caped Crusader that embraces the fantastical. It's a win-win for everyone, but most of all, for the fans. We will be spoiled with more Batman stories than we ever could have dreamed of, and at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest win of them all. Now, what about other universes? What if the Batman joined the Snyderverse, or the Lego Batman universe, or maybe even the Barbie universe? Warner Brothers owns both properties. Think of all the different clashing aesthetics. Okay, that guy has clearly lost his mind, so why don't you just let me know down below what you think about Pattinson's Batman joining the DCU. I would genuinely love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And while you're at it, you may as well give the video a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna make sure that Reeves puts the Batman in the Clooney universe, and nobody wants that. So please just subscribe and save us from that nightmare.